Ryan, and yes, we're looking at a pretty rare event here, actually. It's a very powerful hurricane for November. Not the first strong hurricane that ever hit Cuba, though, in November. Back in 1932, there was even one much stronger than this. Nevertheless, we're looking here at a major hurricane. The top wind's 135 miles an hour, moving toward the northeast. The eye is making landfall even as we speak, about over the Zapata Peninsula, pretty well east of Cienfuegos, right about over the Bay of Pigs or so. Now, the eye is going to be over land here during the night and emerge out in the Florida Straits, very likely, though, sometime after midnight tonight. It's getting a little difficult to see where the center is, but right here is that peninsula, and that's where we can see the eye of the hurricane as it moves ashore. Now, anywhere near that eye and about 50 miles to the east is where the winds are going to be the strongest. That is also where the storm surge is going to be the highest. And we hope that people are really prepared for that, because this storm surge is likely to be about 20 feet or so, and that's enough to inundate a lot of buildings that are along or near the beach. Hurricane warnings are in effect still over the western part of Cuba, both on the south coast and the north coast. Over the Florida Keys, we haven't seen any hurricane force winds in the Florida Keys, and of course the Bahamas are going to be under the gun tomorrow when the eye of this hurricane once more comes out over the open water. It's also going to be accelerating. But on the expected impact for the hurricane of this strength, we are very concerned about wind, rain, and storm surge in particular. Again, I can't overemphasize the danger of this storm surge. And right now, just about as we speak, is when this storm surge is going to be the highest. Now, as we look at potential damage here, we're looking at something between extensive and extreme, so certainly has the capability of a lot of damage. Now, again, it's already begun to move 13 miles an hour. It's going to move increasingly faster as time goes by. It's not going to take it very long to go through the Bahamas at all. It ought to be through there, pretty much, we think, by late tomorrow afternoon through the Bahamas. So that's it this time for Hurricane Michelle. Now back to Ryan.
Thanks a lot, John.
Reemerges into the Atlantic. For the very latest, we turn to senior meteorologist Stu Ostra.
Sharon, the bottom line at this hour is a serious impact in west central Cuba, a direct hit upon a portion of the northern Bahamas, albeit with a bit less intensity, and just a glancing brush by South Florida. Let's go to the hurricane warnings. We see they're still out for much of Cuba, although some of these will be dropped shortly as the center continues to the north and east. Hurricane warnings for much of the northwest and central Bahamas. The Florida Keys still have a hurricane warning in effect as a precaution, but it looks like the chance of any sustained hurricane force winds is just about over there. One thing I did want to mention is that we now have a hurricane watch for Bermuda, as there's at least a possibility that the center will come close enough to provide an impact for them a couple days down the line. Also, tropical storm warnings out for some of those peripheral winds in South Florida. Current information. A couple things I want to point out here. One, winds down to 110 miles per hour. Still a formidable hurricane, but not as strong as it was when it came onshore in Cuba. Also, if you look at the track over the past couple of days, notice that it made the turn yesterday afternoon. Since then, it's been moving very steadily directly toward the northeast, and we see at this hour no reason why that will change. We see flow aloft in the atmosphere, giving it a nudge to the northeast. Ordinarily, this might be actually moving a little more toward the north, but we also see a lot of flow in the atmosphere to the north, coming in out of the northwest, off to the southeast, and all this will cause the hurricane, we think, to be kicked out to sea over the next couple of days. Here's the projected path, again, off to the northeast, right about like that, and you can see a little dot where Bermuda is, and that's why hurricane watches are in effect there. Now let's get into the expected impact in South Florida. If we look at the radar, we can see the eye of the hurricane, which has been moving across west central Cuba during the past few hours. The hurricane force winds, I want to emphasize, are confined to an area right around the center. Then some tropical storm force sustained winds, we think, probably underneath some of these deep greens and yellows, just starting to approach the coast up in the northern Keys and the Miami area. Over the next 6 to 12 to 18 hours, we'll see some of those stronger gusts coming on shore, also some of the heavier rain, but again, the worst of the hurricane passing just by to the east. Sharon?
Okay, Stu Ostra, thank you very much.